Hello everyone, welcome back to another video where today we're going to be going over the latest news for Doctor Who. Apologies for not being around for a few days, but in truth, things have been pretty quiet on the Doctor Who front for the most part, so I thought I would wait until some more things had been kind of dropped before getting back into it. We are now just 3 weeks away from the new series of Doctor Who airing, and yeah, hopefully things start ramping up. We're going to be talking a little bit as well about how the Doctor Who socials have gone weirdly quiet throughout this. But all that and more coming right up. But let's just get right into it. I also want to quickly mention that just for fun, I started a Cameo recently. So if you want to book me to say anything at all, as long as it's not, dodgy, then feel free to do that. It's mainly just for fun and you absolutely don't have to, but I've already had a couple of requests and they've been very fun to do, so the link to that will be the top link in the description. So our story begins with the Radio Times, who have recently been doing their 20th anniversary of new Doctor Who coverage. You might have seen the covers for the Radio Times having one of each Doctor, which is very, very cool. I haven't managed to get the physical copies yet. I did buy a digital copy of Radio Times, but then they just freely released the Doctor Who section anyway, but that's fine. But yeah, so it's 20 years since New Who began, and I think that's quite incredible. Regardless of what anyone thinks about, any sort of recent series of Doctor Who, one cannot deny they must have done something right to keep it going for 20 years at this point. If you really want to think about it, New Who is as old now as the original series was at the point of 5 Doctors, which really puts into perspective how long the new series has been going. But as part of this coverage, of course, we had a new interview with Ncuti Gatwa and Russell T Davies, and included in that were some brand new images. The first one being this one, which is obviously from episode 1 that we believe to be called Robot Revolution, and it sees Ncuti Gatwa kind of being lined up with a bunch of other potential prisoners or inhabitants of this kind of society, which I always really like. I always like seeing the Doctor go a bit native, go a bit undercover in an alien society to see what's going on. I have high hopes for this episode. As an episode opener, I'm not expecting anything too crazy for it, but I am expecting this one to be a bit more sci-fi and arguably well received than something like Space Babies was last year. Just from everything we've seen of it, it definitely seems more in the tone of what I would like to see from an opener, so I'm pretty excited for this one. And then the second image is this one of Verada with some medical equipment. So obviously we know that she is, I believe, a nurse. So it would make sense if she was kind of helping out, say, if there's like a crisis going on this planet, she's giving medical support to the people around her. She seems to be in the same clothes as the Doctor, so I'm going to assume that they're both stranded on this planet or in this society for an extended period of time. I think as well, I remember in the German trailer them saying that they'd been here for 6 months, so it looks like this is going to be like a bit of a long-term thing, at least in the narrative, that they're going to be stuck here and maybe Verada just wants to leave, but the Doctor's like, we might as well have a look around, which is going to be a very interesting dynamic. But of course, the major thing to come out of the Radio Times is the interview with a bunch of different people, including Russell T Davies, Stephen Moffat, Chris Chibnall, and Ncuti Gatwa as well, as part of the 20th anniversary of New Doctor Who. Now, obviously, I won't read this whole thing because there's a lot in here, but there are a couple of things I wanted to highlight. First, I'm using Cultbox to highlight the updates on the current series. Ncuti Gatwa provided some insight into Season 2's dynamic of the new Doctor and companion, Belinda Chandra, Verada Sethu. Belinda challenges the Doctor in ways he hasn't been before. She has absolutely no desire to be in the TARDIS and really wants to get back home, which is hilarious. The Doctor has been used to using his charm and mystery of his life to win people over, but none of that works on Belinda, and she challenges the way the Doctor has been used to doing things. As she's equally headstrong, they push each other's limits. Now, when I read this, I have to say I was incredibly happy, because one of the issues and one of the things that we've all been talking about with kind of the Doctor and Ruby is that there wasn't much tension between the two. It was pretty much, they were singing off the same song sheet from day one, they were both very happy to travel, and the Doctor just seemingly was able to charm her immediately, no questions asked. And I think what they're doing here is basically framing Verada, framing Belinda as the antithesis to Ruby. Ruby was a very wide-eyed kind of 19-year-old. She was young, she hadn't seen much of the world, so was very much taken in by the Doctor's charm and by like the prospect of going to adventure throughout the universe. Whereas, you know, Verada's character, she seems to be a little bit older, perhaps a little bit wiser, you know, perhaps a bit less impressed by the Doctor necessarily. Obviously, this gives me very much kind of Clara vibes, especially with the ongoing mystery surrounding her kind of face being also the face of Monday Flynn from the previous series, which we know is going to be a part of this. But when I read this, I was very, very pleased, because one of my main criticisms of the last series was I don't think there was enough conflict between the Doctor and Ruby, despite the fact that I think Millie and Ncuti work together very well. It's almost like they work together too well, in the sense that they became friends too quickly, and there wasn't kind of that initial suspicion. Whereas from everything we're reading with these two, it seems like that dynamic is a lot more kind of contemptuous. I mean, when was the last time we had a new series companion who didn't want to be there? Obviously, I guess you could say Donna, but that's only really for the Runaway Bride, and then after that, the next time she meets the Doctor, she's all in on the concept of adventuring with him. I would say that some of the Chibnall companions look like they didn't want to be there, but I don't think that was intentional. So yeah, it's going to be really interesting to basically see a new series Tegan Jovanka, someone who does want to get back home. In obviously Tegan's case, it was to get to Heathrow, but in this case, it looks like just, you know, I want to get home, and that kind of being the series arc. I think that's nice, I think that's refreshing, and I think it will provide a bit more of a sort of consistent arc compared to something like what we got with Susan Twist and the Snow and all that, which is a lot more nebulous. The idea of, okay, the Doctor is trying to get this person home but can't for whatever reason, it's simple but effective, so I'm looking forward to that. At the time he was interviewed, Russell T Davies revealed that the post-production on the finale was still underway and expressed enthusiasm for 2 episodes in the upcoming Doctor Who Season 2. It's just wilder swings than ever, really. Episode 3 is absolutely terrifying, and we're still working on the finale right now, which is astonishing. But the episode I keep coming back to rewatching is the Interstellar Song Contest. It's terrific in all sorts of ways. So interesting, he says that episode 3 is absolutely terrifying, and I believe that's the anti-gravity one, as far as I can tell, which is very interesting. That's another thing that I'm very excited about by Season 2, and why I do think it could potentially be an improvement on Season 1 is it seems to be a lot more focused on monsters and scares, which is something I wanted to see more of. And, I mean, look at some of the villains we've already seen in the Season 2 trailer. It definitely feels darker. So if they're leaning into that, I'm very much on board. The other thing I wanted to talk about in this interview is a segment where Radio Times talk about Doctor Who's kind of performance for the Beeb, which I think is very interesting. Doctor Who is a 20th century show successfully reinvented for the 21st, but perhaps more pertinently, it's also a 2005 show that survived the changes in the TV landscape since then. The rise of streaming and the supposed death of traditional broadcasting, Doctor Who has become one of the biggest streaming successes for BBC iPlayer, with 36 million hours of New Who specifically between 2005 and 2022 watched on the platform just last year, and then it continues. The BBC tells Radio Times that over 70 million hours of Doctor Who was watched in 2024, including its various spin-offs and iterations. So yeah, the thing I found really interesting about this is 36 million hours of New Who from 2005 to 2022 were watched last year, and 70 million hours of Doctor Who in totality was watched. So that includes New Who, Classic Who, 2023 onwards Doctor Who, and also the various spin-offs, Torchwood, Sarah Jane Adventures, Class, whatever. So I think that's really impressive. 70 million hours is a lot of Doctor Who watched, and I think it just shows that A, Doctor Who is still a big brand for the BBC that still gets a lot of watch time on iPlayer, and B, it also kind of shows the significance of the back catalogue, and also why arguably the BBC iPlayer back catalogue initiative is probably one of the best initiatives Russell has done on returning. The idea of having Doctor Who all in one place makes it very accessible, and also means a lot more people are going to watch not only New Who but also classic Doctor Who and get into the classic series, which I think can only be a good thing. If only there was a way for this to go internationally. Maybe that's going to be part of like potential renegotiations with Disney. Obviously I'm only speculating there, but we can hope. But yeah, I think this just shows that like a lot of people still watch Doctor Who, is my point that I'm making here. The Doctor Who Twitter account finally re-emerged after an extended absence of about 2 weeks to announce a new cast member for Season 2. Joining the intergalactic escapade, Cadif Kerwin joins the cast of Season 2 of Doctor Who. Find out more on the website, and then it says it's packed with gravity, defying mastery beyond imagination, and being part of it is an absolute dream. So, two things people are pointing out. One, the word gravity is used, but I think that's just because it's an interview. And two, the word mastery. And people are going, oh, does this mean he's the master? I really don't. I think this is just him phrasing things. Meet the latest star of stage and screen, set to join the Doctor and Belinda in Season 2. Since shooting to stardom, playing Aaron in hit comedy Chewing Gum, Rtd Ncuti has gone on to star in hit series after hit series, including Black Mirror, Fleabag, I May Destroy You, This Is Going To, and most recently, Slow Horses. Now, people have pointed out that this is, I believe, the third actor from that show, Slow Horses, to be in this series, and we're only missing Gary Oldman, which I would love to see him in it. Rtd can also be spotted on the big screen, with roles ranging from 2018's Mary, Queen of Scots, to 2022's My Policeman, and on the stage in the Pulitzer Prize-winning The Hot Wing King. Now Rtd is set to blast off into the universe as he joined the Doctor, Ncuti Gatwa, Belinda Chandra, Varada Sethu for an intergalactic escapade in the upcoming second season of Doctor Who, launching on 12th of April. Rtd Ncuti said, I feel elated to be joining the rich legacy of actors who have guest starred in Doctor Who. Russell T Davies and Jude Dawson have truly outdone themselves with this episode in what I can only describe as an intergalactic gargantuan extravaganza. So this must be episode 6 then. This is the intergalactic song contest one if it's Juno Dawson. It's packed with gravity-defying mystery beyond imagination, and being a part of it is an absolute dream. Strap in, Whovians, this one is going to rock your world. Russell T Davies, showrunner, said, we're so lucky in Cardiff to open the doors to world-class talent, and it's been a riot to work with Rtd. I've loved his work on TV and stage for a long time, so when we realised he was available and happy to come on board, that was truly a great day in the office. So yeah, very interesting. Some people have also pointed out that rather than saying that Season 2 just kind of airs on April 12th, they're saying that it launches on April 12th. Now, I've seen some people speculate that the reason for this is that April 12th is actually, I believe, the date of the first space mission, I believe, and that allegedly Episode 1's Robot Revolution is going to tie into that somehow. So that's something I've seen speculated. Take it with a pinch of salt, it might not be accurate, it might be, just a word, but it's an interesting thought nonetheless. But yeah, I know very little about Rtd personally, but I'm sure he'll be great. And that's not the only cast member we've had kind of confirmed, albeit less officially in the second case, with a former Emmerdale star coming to join the show. This time it's Max Parker. Now, I want to give the credit to who I believe is the original poster of this, which is Doctor Who Production News, who said, I think from the left is Max Parker. He has Doctor Who on his CV. And then Doctor Who Production News said that other news outlets started mysteriously reporting on this as soon as they put out their tweet and claimed that it was from a, quote, anonymous source. So it looks like that some of the outlets, particularly The Sun, are looking at Doctor Who kind of social media accounts to find the latest scoops. So I wanted to give the credit where it was due to Doctor Who Production News. But yeah, apparently Max Parker is in Emmerdale, so he is another guest star, and I assume this is episode 1 as well, judging by the outfits. So yeah, but that's about all we have at the moment. I would assume at some point soon we'll get another trailer, and if we do, I will talk about that. And I also want to do one last theory video before the series launches, but we're not that far away now. 3 weeks and it'll be on. So let me know what you guys think about anything that we've spoken about today. Like the video you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you later.